Welcome to VMware Explore 2022 with the CTO Advisor Studio. Come on in and consume some content.
Welcome back to coverage of VMware Explore 2022. I'm tired, but I've been having fun. Vittorio, this is a fun tired. We haven't done anything like this in 3 years. Vittorio Viarengo, VP of Cross Cloud Marketing at
Cross Cloud
VMware?
Services, yeah.
Cross Cloud Services. What me and my friends at the Cube call Super Cloud.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that conversation later. First off, I want to hit the back. What do you think about the RV?
Yeah, you and I have this passion in common. Every time I say that I actually have two RVs.
Yes, you do.
I have a big one for the big trips with the family, which is I did a big one with 9 people. And then I have a small one, a Sprinter, for my wife and I on the weekends. And whenever I say that I have that, they look at me like I don't fit the profile.
Aren't you a VP of a major?
It doesn't matter. I don't think you have experienced true America dream if you haven't spent a night at a Walmart in your life.
You know what? I will push back. You haven't experienced the true American dream until you've spent the night in a Cracker Barrel. Then you know you've arrived.
Yeah, right.
It is. We share the passion.
Look, I love this country, and I have embraced it completely, including the RV experience.
And we'll get into one day, kind of you pulling your extended family into that experience. There's no better way. I don't think there's a better way to see America than through the windshield of an RV or a truck pulling the RV and being able to camp in amazing spots. If people don't follow you on the social media, they should. The images you captured from your last trip, amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing places.
Let me know, and you're a big RVers too, so we should compare notes. Every time I go places where I've been, I can tell you all that I know about it, and I want the same from you.
So let's talk about VMware Cloud Services. High level, what is it? I know on the conference keynote yesterday, they announced vSphere 8 and vSAN 8, spent maybe 30 seconds on it, but spent quite a bit of time on Cross Cloud Services. What is Cross Cloud Services?
Cross Cloud Services is our portfolio of cloud native services that allow our customers to build, manage, run, secure, and access any application across any cloud. The way to think about it is that on-prem, we use the hypervisor to pull resources, make everything look the same, pull the resources, automate, and we unleash tremendous growth and flexibility for our customers. Now, I think we have the opportunity to do it all over again, but at a higher level of abstraction, to bring the commonalities of the various clouds and package them as a service so that you don't, if you are an operator, you can lay down, with Tanzu, for example, you lay down those Kubernetes distribution, and then you have one place for the developers to drop the code, and then it goes to the right cloud without having to look at the differences.
So I got into a big debate with some folks on Twitter about this. I posted something that everyone should proceed as a pro VMware comment. Said VMware is doing the dirty work of application developer experience, of normalizing the underlay, whether you're talking about private infrastructure or you're talking about the clouds. I'm of the opinion you need to take that approach. You need to normalize it, make it common, so that I can bring my preferred Kubernetes distribution. It doesn't have to be Tanzu. It can be OpenShift. I want a consistent OpenShift experience across every infrastructure. My argument is that VMware is in a position to do that, but there's a lot of hard, unthankful work that needs to be done in order to make that happen. The pushback that I was given was, no, VMware needs to own the developer experience. If VMware doesn't own the developer experience, you're losing. Where do you land in that conversation?
can claim to own the developer experience. I mean, developers are the most opinionated, most innovative people that I know. Right? Of all the engineers that are opinionated to begin with, the developers are the one. So I think they have voted with their feet with open source and whatever IDE they want, Emacs, whatever gets them closer to right. So we do have ways to integrate with IDEs and get into the developer experience, but to me, the bigger unsolved problem and where we have an in is through the operations. That's what I've been telling the people at this conference. Follow the Kelsey Hightower career path. He was a VI admin, and then he saw the world evolving towards native cloud native applications, microservices, DevOps, and he reinvented himself, learned these new things, and now is a luminary. We don't all have to be luminaries, but the people at this conference should take that and learn how to become an operator of cloud native application, and that's where Tanzu, Mission Control, Tanzu Smash will help them be successful there. So I think that's our angle, through the operations.
So I don't think I disagree with you, and we had Kelsey on. Me and Kelsey went through really great detail about what that looks like from, inheriting an environment where I have a NetApp storage array, I have a Cisco network, I have a VMware vSphere underlay, and I didn't design it. I came in, and this has been my environment. I've operated for 7 years. I've come to VMworld every year. VMware has kind of told me what I needed to do next, and I did it. That's not simple, but from a roadmap perspective, it was a simple roadmap in itself to tell me what I need to do. Now we're in a world that, that path is bifurcated. I have to decide on my next cloud platform. I have to decide on my next storage services. I have to decide on how I'm going to approach observability. VMware seems to be boiling the ocean. Like all those areas I mentioned, VMware has products and services in space. It's a much more complicated message to deliver, and it's your job to deliver the message, to communicate that. Where do you start?
So, I've heard this pushback that because cross cloud services are happening. HashiCorp, Snowflake, Alteryx. I mean, how many companies at the Cube event we did like a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, everyone was there.
Yeah, and these are companies with revenue, right? So these cross cloud services, no question in my mind, are happening. What we are trying to do is to bring these things together as a platform, and it's very ambitious, but a company like VMware has to have an ambitious goal because of our tradition, the DNA that we have, and the resources that we have. Now, we have to execute, right? Last year, cross-cloud service was a vision. This year, with ARIA especially, providing you with a common object model across all clouds that allows you to build the inventory of what you have and then make decision on top of it, make management, and then bringing NSX management as a cloud service, I think we start to have real meat behind this, and we need to keep executing. The other thing that I always say, do not, and VMware very closely, right? You use the product all day, every day. Do not bet against our engineering team.
So I have to eat a little crow. I'm not going to eat my hat because I really like my hat, but maybe 7 or 8 years ago, VMware started the software-defined data center, pushing the software-defined data decision vision. It wasn't a SKU, it wasn't a product, it wasn't something that you can go out and buy. It was an ambition. It was, and I look back and I'm like, that's a great idea, but how do I buy it? Like, what is it? What's the SKU? Same question I'm asking you today, and the folks said, Keith, it's same answer you gave today. Today, I don't think anyone questions whether or not I can go buy the SDDC from VMware directly. It may not be a product in itself, but the SDDC as a vision, VMware can deliver on every day, all day. So I'm not going to bet against VMware's engineers. What I am going to probe and talk about is that journey. because the NetApp just recently announced their first-class citizen storage for VMC on AWS. And I got to be honest, I shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, okay, yeah, storage, it's tough, it's hard. The solution, like when they go and they peel back the onion, I'm like, it's hard. And I found myself battling the level of difficulty of accomplishing what they accomplished, the engineering effort, and the expectation of the customers I talked to. The expectations of the customers I talked to is kind of like, it should already be that.
There.
So there's the gap between customer expectations and where the industry is at. As a marketer, it's your job to kind of balance the two and say, okay, here's what we can do, here's what we will do. What's that sweet spot where this story is resonating with customers, where customers are not just wholesale leaving VMware? Because I got to be honest, there's not a vendor out there that can answer any of this by themselves yet. So when people say they're going to leave VMware as a customer and go somewhere else, my big question is, where?
So I think there are three areas that are real today that deliver great value to our customers. The first one is VMware Cloud, because VMware Cloud gives you the same environment on both sides, and now I've talked to enough customers that have done it, like Leak and Employer, Cerner, S&P Global. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They just deploy VMware Cloud, bare metal on Azure or Google or AWS, and then they move workloads around. Management is the same, whether they use a storage array from one of our partners or the local, at some point doesn't really matter to us. So that's a clear areas of value. Then the other two areas of value, I think, in this cross-cloud service world, outside of our hypervisor, I think is management. With ARIA and everything Tanzu. I think those are the other two areas. And the reason why, you call me a marketing guy, but I'm an engineer, I've been building products all my life. To me, I like to craft a great story, but then what gives me credibility is when I talk to customers. And every customer I talk to right now has this challenge today. I was talking to a multinational bank the other day, and they're telling me, we are deploying on Azure, AWS, and this, and we're going to build a management plane for these workloads. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you're not. You're going to buy from us or from HashiCorp and others. What we need to do a better job, I think, going forward, is we need to do a better job articulating the use cases and what is the advantage of buying, say, Tanzu and ARIA from us. Right? I think that's the part that I think we need to do a better job, and then keep executing on engineering side.
So you've mentioned ARIA a couple of times, and this has been the other hot conversation on social media since the announcement yesterday for ARIA. It's just vRealize rebranded. The engineers and product team at VMware on Twitter are pushing back hard against that. I'd love for you to make that case. Is ARIA simply vRealize rebranded, or is it something in addition to what we should expect from? And vRealize, to be honest with you, is a very solid product, especially if you're consuming it as a SaaS solution. Is ARIA more expansive than vRealize was?
Yes, the answer is yes. There are two aspects to ARIA. One is this new object model that spans any assets in a cloud, which is part of us pivoting towards cloud native increasingly, right? And then there is also an aspect of integrating existing assets from vRealize and from Cloud Health. Things that were already cloud native that were needed anyway. So yeah, I understand why the engineers are pushing back. It's the object model, and then there is a rebranding / integration aspect to it as well.
So let's go into some detail as we wrap up about this concept of an object model. When you say object model as an engineer, I think about object in AWS when it relates to an IAM role. I can do incredible things with a AWS object. I can assign it rights. I can assign it rights across customers, VPCs. That object can do is an incredible abstraction. Are we thinking object in the same concept that when a ARIA object is a object that can exist from a observability perspective across clouds?
Yeah, so basically the idea is that you have to have a model that tells you where your objects are, what are the attributes, and what are the things that you can do to that object, right? So the ARIA model gives you that across cloud. So now you have this object that happens to be instantiated on AWS, then there are different properties, different things that you can do, but they're all going to have common lifecycle things that we can do across all of them. And who else is going to give you that object model if it's not somebody outside of AWS or above AWS and Azure and so on?
So let's make this super real. If I have an object, let's say it's a S3 block, and I have that similar thing across 3 different cloud providers. Now, can I run a direct comparison? Like, can I run a report that tells me, give me my object type across this thing that I have across the 3 different providers? Give me the data across those 3 objects.
And the cost, and the uptime, and the performance, and all that. And then over time you can say, hey, object of this type on this cloud have better cost or performance than on that cloud, let's move them over. Right?
Yeah, I can't do that with vRealize. I couldn't do that with either one of those solutions. So I can see why the engineers will push back and say, this is more than vRealize, it's a combination. It is and I ask this of a lot of vendors, because a lot of vendors, especially portfolio companies, they'll have a costing tool like a Cloud Health, and then they'll have a tool like vRealize. And the question that I ask them all the time is, when are the 2 going to merge? Yep. And this is the merger of those 2 and gives me that costing capability, which is critical in cloud operations in my observability platform as well.
But think of how powerful, once this vision comes to fruition, think how powerful it is to know your cost across cloud and be able to act on it across all of your portfolio. It's super powerful.
Victoria, I appreciate you coming through. This has been an unsponsored video, and we didn't even prepare for it. I didn't tell you what questions I was going to ask. You did a wonderful job. If you don't think I did a wonderful job, if you say, you know what, Keith, you went too easy on Victorio, you didn't even ask him about the Broadcom acquisition. You know what, we didn't get there. He's been asked about it, you can Google it, he has an answer somewhere, I'm sure. Even still, you can DM me on Twitter, DMs are open, at CTO Advisor. You want to learn more about the CTO Advisor, follow me on the web, thectoadvisor.com. Stay tuned for more coverage. If you haven't already watched it, the interview, as we create them, is coming up. After Victorio leaves, Amanda Blevins is going to sit in the hot seat, and we're going to ask her some great questions, not about RVing, but about cars. I've been having some trouble with my cars, and I'm hoping that she can give me some great advice. Talk to you next video covering the CTO Advisor at VMware Explore 2022.